Welcome, everybody, to Redacted on this Thursday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris.
And so glad to have you all here and subscribed and a part of our great community. We really appreciate it. Getting close to, I think 3.3 million overall.
Across platforms. Yeah,
so
it's
thank
exciting.
You. We've got a lot of news to get to today.
We do indeed. Let's see. Nuclear war continuing to escalate because who the heck is the president to stop it? Well, that continues to happen. We're also going to talk about Congress stopping the WHO treaty. There is some progress there. So perhaps we won't get globalists making the laws of the land in wherever you live.
Also, a lot of talk about Haitians eating cats, dogs, memes going crazy. President Trump during the debate saying they're eating dogs, they're eating cats, and now it's taken over TikTok with memes and dance videos. But of course, all of this talk about cats and dogs, we can dive into the truth of all of that, is missing the larger story, which is illegal immigration in the United States. But how are these illegal immigrants getting here in the first place? Turns out we're going into those countries and totally destabilizing those countries. Take Venezuela, take Haiti, for instance. So we're going to deep dive exactly what's going on in Haiti and how all of this has led to the disaster that we're seeing in the United States.
You stop it with your root causes of issues. That's not what we do. Right. We're also going to talk about the debates. Now, the debates showed me more than ever that we are living in a war-loving dystopia. I think the conversation around the bias around the news anchors has upset me much less than their bias for war. And we're going to talk about how fiction has warned us we are here. The elites and the globalists and the media will send your kids to their deaths because they risk nothing. It's awful. I want us to talk about this. So think about your favorite dystopic warning films. Can you name a few? Star Wars, Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, you guys? V for Vendetta. Yes, thank you. We're here. These debates prove it, and I'm going to prove it to you, and we're going to discuss this.
Dr. Strangelove.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, keep them coming. Keep them coming. So we're going to get to all of that.
All right. Yes, we're going to get to all of that. We're going to talk about White House, Russia, Vladimir Putin responding just moments ago to this escalation from NATO and the White House and this report in Politico. We're going to get to that, and sitting on the steps of thermonuclear war. We'll get to that in a second, but first, we want to tell you about our friends over at ExpressVPN. Let me tell you something. This is an app that I use every day here on Redacted. So does Natali. We both use it. We wouldn't be able to do this show if it wasn't for ExpressVPN. It's an amazing VPN service that allows us to access news websites and information because of censorship laws. So this is what people are dealing with on a regular basis. We know that there are people that live in France that can't even watch our show unless they use a VPN. That's how these crazy governments are limiting our access to information these days. ExpressVPN is incredibly simple to use and set up. We have it set up on all of our computers. We use it every day. All you do is click the on button, boom, you're connected. So you can pick and choose which country, which node you want to connect to. If you need to jump on in the United States, you can choose from, of course, a whole list of locations through the US, Europe, around the world. It's totally up to you. But this allows you to access things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to access because of your IP address. Of course, it hides your IP address. It anonymizes all of that. So if you're in a public Wi-Fi setting, you're at a coffee shop, wherever, and you want to use their Wi-Fi, absolutely, you need to use a VPN to protect yourself from people who are trying to snoop on your computer and what you're surfing, right? Whether it's banking information, you want to pay some bills while you're at the coffee shop, make sure you're using a VPN. So our friends over at ExpressVPN right now will give you 3 months of ExpressVPN for free, okay? Just go to expressvpn.com/redacted to get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. So go to expressvpn.com/redacted. Find out how you can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. Well, we are facing a massive escalation towards thermonuclear war with Russia, and Putin has just responded to a damning new plan by the White House to launch long-range weapons inside of Russia, teaming up with the United Kingdom to pull all of this off. So we'll get to Putin's response here in a minute. I just can't believe we didn't have a deeper discussion about nuclear war during the debate the other night, because here we are on the precipice of nuclear war. Here, according to Politico, with this exclusive report, White House finalizing plans to expand where Ukraine can hit inside of Russia. The talks have been closely held among a small group of officials inside the White House. And over the past 24 hours, we've had the deep state puppets running the White House have finalized plans to expand the war against Russia. We've been reporting, of course, that according to our sources here at Redacted, that what Politico is now confirming, which we've already been saying here on this show, so they've actually confirmed this. David Sachs, tweeting this just a few minutes ago, says the White House is ready to greenlight the use of American missiles to strike targets deep inside of Russia. The Russians have made many ways to retaliate. Why are we taking this risk? Ukraine is neither a treaty ally nor vital interest. Biden himself once warned this could cause World War III. Yes, that's exactly right. An attack against Russia in this way would launch World War III. Here was President Biden in 2022 saying,
the idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III. Okay? Let's get
it right. It's going to be World War III.
When President Trump said that, they treated him like he was crazy. Like, calm down, sir. Calm down.
Yeah, Trump during the debate was the only one. He's like, we're talking about nuclear weapons. We're talking about nuclear war. And he was saying it almost like into a vacuum, because certainly ABC was not interested in listening to
the conversation at all. No, they were worried about fact checking him about violent crime, which they were wrong about. So they're absolutely unfocused on anything that matters.
So just so you understand, here are the details. Let's go through this Politico piece, which is stunning. We're talking about war with a nuclear country. White House finalizing plans to expand where Ukraine can hit inside of Russia. The talks have been closely held among a small group of officials inside the White House. White House finalizing these plans to ease restrictions on how Ukraine can use U.S. donated weapons and better protect itself from Russian missiles, according to a Western official and two other people familiar with the discussions. The details of the plan are still coming together, but officials in Washington, London, and Kiev have in recent days discussed expanding the area inside of Russia that Ukraine can hit with American and British-made weapons. They also discussed how to prevent additional cross-border attacks by Russia, including U.S. agreeing to allow Ukraine to use UK long-range missiles that contain American parts. So these current conversations are ongoing and significant, and it's a significant change to our current foreign policy. Now, Jake Sullivan is highlighted here. Back a number of months ago, of course, was on the record with Jake Tapper, lying to Jake Tapper, saying that we're not going to escalate sending F-16s. And then a few months later, he got on the record with Jake Tapper, and Jake Tapper was pissed. And Jake's like, you basically lied to me. You told me in February that you were not going to send F-16s, that this would be a dramatic escalation along the ladder to war, and you said you wouldn't do it, and now you're doing it. So you're basically lied to me. What changed? Oh, well, we've always been sort of examining the dynamics of the war and kind of looking at things. And
what do you call this? Mission creep. There's a word for it. It's happening. Mission creep. It's
disgusting, and it's deeply troubling. And is there a bigger story in the world right now? I mean, just so you understand the details here, we're talking about war with a nuclear country. And I guess the United States is okay with that because Europe would be wiped off the face of the map first. And, you know, America loves that idea, right? Just like they did with the Nord Stream pipeline bombing. They destroy the Nord Stream pipeline, send Germany back into the dark ages. Economies in ruin, businesses closing, drives up the American dollar, drives down the euro. The United States sends barrels and barrels of natural gas because, well, the Nord Stream pipeline's blown up, so now you need to buy it from us. Right? Europe will be wiped off the face of the planet first, and make no mistake about it. Just so you understand the details here, the plans of which are already being rolled out. This is like we're hearing about it now. This is already in motion, guys. Well, this is a massive escalation towards nuclear war.
In the newsletter today, we linked you to a call for a study from the Department of Defense asking for contractors to study the effects of fallout on agriculture in Europe from nuclear war. So we know Europeans, you won't be eating unless you like radioactive eggs. We don't give a shit. We're just going to study it and see how it then affects our food supply, if it, in fact, will reach the capital of Panem.
We're going to get more of a deep dive on this nuclear angle in just a second here. So Vladimir Putin was just asked about this escalation from NATO, the United States, and the UK. And the reporter asked him very directly about this escalation. What does this mean for Ukraine now to have these weapons to launch inside of Russia? And Putin, he explained, he's like, look, you have to understand, first of all, Ukraine can't do any of this by themselves. They don't have satellites. They don't have these weapons. All of it is being orchestrated by NATO. And there will be consequences. Watch.
Но когда речь идет об использовании высокоточного оружия большой дальности западного производства, это совершенно другая история. Дело в том, что я уже об этом говорил, и любые эксперты это подтвердят и у нас, и на Западе. Наносить удары современными высокоточными системами большой дальности западного производства украинская армия не в состоянии. Она не может этого делать. Это возможно только с использованием разведданных со спутников, которыми Украина не располагает. Это данные только со спутников или Евросоюза, либо на Соединенных Штатах, в общем, с натовских спутников. Это первое. Второе. И очень важное, может быть, ключевое, заключается в том, что
This is the most important part. Pay attention.
В эти ракетные системы могут, по сути, вносить только военнослужащие стран НАТО. Украинские военнослужащие делать это не могут. И поэтому речь идет не о том, чтобы разрешать украинскому режиму наносить удары по России этим оружием или не разрешать. Речь идет о том, чтобы принять решение о том, что страны НАТО напрямую участвуют в военном конфликте или нет. Если это решение будет принято, это будет означать не что иное, как прямое участие стран НАТО, Соединенных Штатов, европейских стран в войне на Украине. Это их прямое участие. И это уже, конечно, существенным образом меняет саму суть, саму природу конфликта. Это будет означать, что страны НАТО, США, европейские страны воюют с Россией. А если это так, то, имея в виду изменение самой сути этого конфликта, мы будем принимать соответствующие решения, исходя из тех угроз, которые нам будут создаваться.
Well, shit.
So, guys, just so you understand, this sort of ratcheting has been up a ladder. And just so you understand the threat escalation here, I've heard a lot of people talking about the RAND Corporation's threat escalation ladder lately. And if you haven't read this document, it's well worth reading. The RAND Corporation. This is from 1984, the concepts and models of escalation. And again, it's really fascinating to go through this. I encourage you all to read it, and you can find it easily online. However, this is exactly, I'll sum it up for you here. We put together this handy little graphic so you understand exactly where we are in the threat escalation ladder scenario right now. So we are sitting right now at, you start at the top here, diplomatic pressure.
So you descend into hell.
You descend into hell.
It's not
basically.
A ladder you're climbing. It's a ladder you're descending.
Exactly. You're going down
oblivion.
into hell.
Okay.
So if you start at the top, right, diplomatic pressure. Okay, you've got diplomatic pressure, then you've got economic sanctions, you've got covert operations, right? So economic sanctions, of course, hit, that's actually destroyed the United States and Europe. All of the economic sanctions against Russia, they didn't work. Covert operations, we've highlighted here on the show, the special military operations, the special operations forces in Ukraine carrying out operations against Russia, American soldiers being killed, French soldiers being killed, Polish soldiers being killed in covert operations against Russia, attacks inside of Russia. That's already happened. Then you have limited military action. That ship has already sailed. More than limited military action, active involvement from NATO. Then you have a regional conflict. Okay, regional conflict into full-scale war followed by nuclear war. At each level, we are hitting each of these markers now. And by the way, each of these markers, President Biden, the Biden administration told us we would not hit, that we would end with economic sanctions. No, American soldiers are not going to be involved in any kind of covert actions. That's a lie. Then limited military action. Oh, F-16s, NATO forces, American forces on the ground, directing these traffic, launching these missiles, these HIMARS missiles and others. Regional conflict. How much higher do we need to go? I mean, it's all unfolding right before our eyes. Where is this going to end? And certainly they do not want President Trump to be president of the United States. He was the only one during the debate that said, stop this, put an end to this. Yeah. I have said repeatedly, regardless of where you come down on it, whether you're a Trump fan or not, they will not allow him to become president of the United States. And this is why they will not allow him to become president of the United States. They want this to continue, and they want direct conflict with Russia, a hot war with Russia. And they're about to get it. And Kamala Harris, when she's elected, because you know the deep state wants that, this is going to escalate into a full-scale war and then potentially a nuclear war. And Europe will be wiped off the map first.
I mean, think about where your head goes around this. Like, am I safe where I live? But even if I am, do I want my government killing people with nuclear war? Can I live with that? You think about the food supply, you think about everything that we are feeding into now and being distracted by it with culture wars when we really have very few options to vote for peace because it's being taken from us. We're going to talk more about this sort of fictional dystopia that we find ourselves in that is reality, and how the rhetoric around war is just being hidden from us. But we've been warned about it. So we're going to talk about that more in the show. But thank you for that graphic, Clayton. That was terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's evident with, all the endorsements coming out for Harris, what they're wanting to do, with Cheney and Bolton and all those people. So it's clear that they know that Trump is not going to do their bidding and they want war. So now they're all on the side of Harris.
I saw this liberal person on X saying, hey, look, we've got Dick Cheney and we've got Mike Pompeo, and sort of like, look, look what this says for us. And I'm like, girl, do you know those people? That's not the flex you think it is.
Did you happen to see Jon Stewart's reaction to that? Jon Stewart did that, where he was talking about Tulsi Gabbard supporting Trump, and he was like, okay, and then he said, but hey, we've got, and then he's like, Dick Cheney. And it just cuts to him, and he's just got this total WTF look on his face, and it's like,
Right.
Well, you recall 10 years ago, of course, liberals were, called him a war criminal. They called him Darth Vader, right? I mean, he was the embodiment of evil. And I still think to this day, he is the embodiment of evil. I mean, I think he's a criminal. I mean, he's a war criminal. They embraced a movie by Christian Bale. They would not be able to do that now. Right. This was a film that showed about how we contracted the Iraq War for greed and gain, and based on a lie. And now that person is a marquee endorsement of your candidate. Maybe you want to think about the war rhetoric that's being sold here. Johnny Freedom in our Rumble chat says liberals have 2 week long memories, like a goldfish, I guess. Yeah. Well, we got more news to get to. We're going to talk about that dystopian future and how we seem to be in it, led by those ABC moderators during the debate the other night. We're also going to talk about Haitians in America. And of course, there's lots of videos being shared right now. You have the Springfield City Council last night. You had a number of people from the Springfield, Ohio City Council and residents coming out and saying our community is being destroyed. It's being invaded basically by Haitians. We're going to talk about that. How yes, it's absolutely true. How did Ohio see Springfield, Ohio, seeing basically a tripling of its population in just a few short years? But what is the root cause of all of this? Everyone wants to talk about dogs and cats and meme videos on the internet, but there's a root cause of all of this. We're going to talk about that coming up. But first,
also get in your dystopic films that have warned us about where we currently are. I like it. I see in the chat V for Vendetta, Terminator, Running Man, Gattaca. I submit Blade Runner because, yes, we cheer for this when it comes to fiction and pretend we don't see it in the real world. Not us here at Redacted, not you, dear chat. So we're going to get to that. But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Bank on Yourself, because do you really control your retirement money? Well, if you've got a 401k or an IRA or a similar government-controlled retirement plan, you're not in control. They decide how much you can borrow when you pay it back. They decide that you are going to partner with them to invest in the stock market. And what are you investing in? Things they want to do well, things that work for them. You know this. We've talked about this, but Bank on Yourself is the proven retirement plan alternative that lets you bypass Wall Street and beat the banks at their own game. You take control of your financial future. It has a guaranteed, predictable growth in retirement income. With no luck, skill, or guesswork retired, your plan doesn't go backwards when the markets tumble and then you have to wait a decade decade for it to recover and then think you're doing all right because your principal and your growth are locked in. Now, this is something, again, like most investments that we tell you about, you have to learn it. You have to study it. You shouldn't do it because we tell you to. You should study it and then decide if it works. But we are suggesting that you study it, and you can find out more and get a free report at bankonyourself.com/redacted. So it's a free report with all the details on how Bank on Yourself strategy adds guarantees and predictability and control to your financial plan. So go to bankonyourself.com/redacted. Again, you need to download the report, and then you need to set aside some time to study it. And you don't have time to wait because, again, if you're partnered with the government to invest in the stock market and you're watching Redacted, you know the folly of that plan. So go to bankonyourself.com/redacted. Well, the House of Representatives passed an amendment to tell the World Health Organization to pound sand about their global pandemic treaty. So what is this? This is the WHO's pandemic treaty. It's a proposal that all member states sign that would give them, the WHO, the ultimate powers of law for what they call pandemic and possible pandemic, but it goes way farther than that. We've shown you these documents. This is not my interpretation. This is what they wrote down that they will do. It is a document that will give unelected leaders of the WHO the power to make laws in all WHO countries, the power to survey, the power to instate lockdowns, vaccine mandates, global vaccine passports, and they even say in their documents, I have shown you this. You can search Redacted for WHO and see them. They want the power to prevent pandemics, and in doing so, they will reorder all agriculture and business and food supply in your country to prevent the possibility of a pandemic. They wrote it down. So we've been following the amendments to this document and the global opposition as well. The global opposition to this document is not coming from the White House. The White House thinks this is a great idea. Let's give the WHO all the powers that currently reside with the three branches of government. Nah. Let's give it to them. Well, now the House has passed an act that we showed you when it was first introduced last year. It's called the No WHO Pandemic Preparedness Treaty Without Senate Approval Act. What it does is would require a majority vote in the Senate, a supermajority, before the president can sign this and hand power to the WHO. Now, here this week is Representative Thomas Massie discussing his related amendments to recognize that the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And not only can we not sign the WHO treaty, but we can sign no treaty in order to supersede the laws of the Constitution. Listen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of my amendment, which simply recognizes that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Our Constitution establishes a very clear framework for making treaties by the executive and with the advice and consent of the Senate. But our Constitution also establishes a clear framework for making laws that affect our domestic affairs. If any provisions of a treaty are to have legal bearing on United States citizens, those provisions must pass both the United States House of Representatives and the Senate and be presented to the President, as all federal laws must. Treaties don't override our constitutional process for making law. Presidents can't make U.S. law by agreeing to new terms in an international treaty. Every law that American citizens live under must pass the House and the Senate. My colleagues have eloquently made the point that a president can't enter into a treaty without advice and consent of the Senate. And in doing so, they are standing up for the sovereignty of American citizens. But they are requiring the Senate to be that portion of the legislative branch that decides what laws will bear on citizens, depending on what the treaty is. My amendment here is very simple. It says that if a treaty has a law in it that has the bearing on United States citizens, on our domestic activities, then it has to follow the lawmaking process of the Constitution. And I reserve the balance of my time.
Okay, so here he's making a point that scares me almost more than the WHO. And I had not thought of this because I'd been so focused on this document alone. I'd been worried about these specific powers. But what he's saying is that if the president signs this without congressional approval, he could sign over powers to any other globalist organization that would take away our rights. And here he plays it out. So think about not just the WHO, but all the bad guys that we talk about, the IMF, the United Nations, the World Economic Forum. Listen to how he plays this out.
You know, the bulk of my speech in support of my amendment, it actually doesn't come from me. It's going to come from Alexander Hamilton, who described in Federalist 75 the treaty-making powers of the executive. He states, its objects are contracts with foreign nations, which have the force of law, but derive it from the obligations of good faith. And this is the most important part. They are not rules prescribed by the sovereign to the subject, but agreements between sovereign and sovereign. The power in question seems therefore to form a distinct department and to belong properly neither to the legislative nor the executive. The qualities elsewhere detailed as indispensable in the management of foreign negotiations point out the executive as the most fit agent in those transactions, while the vast importance of the trust and the operation of treaties as laws plead strongly for the participation of the whole or a portion of the legislative body in the office of making them. So what's he saying here? He's saying you can't make laws, domestic laws, using a treaty. Treaties can't bind the United States to declare war. Treaties can't raise taxes. Treaties can't create new laws for us. And the United States should not take part in international institutions that erode our sovereignty. Congress should not legitimize blatantly unconstitutional notions that agreements that come out of these institutions supersede the Constitution of the United States.
Okay, we can stop it there because he goes on about different ways that this could play out. So think about this, you guys. If we can hand over laws under the auspices of emergency to the WHO, we can do that for any unelected globalist body. So I was just kind of spitballing today, and I came up with this list of a nightmare of globalist powers being taken from the United States and put into these treaties or these organizations that we do not vote for. So if we can do this, could we sign over the right of NATO to supersede gun control in our own country? Absolutely, we could. Yeah. Could the IMF treaty supersede our monetary policy and instate global currency? Yes, that could be a thing. Could the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and the Davos man supersede environmental and global business laws?
They already do.
Absolutely.
They already do.
Could the United Nations force us to go to war? Absolutely. All of these things would be possible if they can do it for the WHO. They can do it for any of those bad guys. Any of them. Yeah, you got any more? Let me know. Yeah.
Even if they give it to the power to the WHO, who says that they can't, these other places by proxy can't work with the WHO to say, hey, this is a health concern, you know, and right. Get those things passed.
Yes. Yeah. It all comes in a Trojan horse of emergency. We know this. Mm-hmm. All power grabs come inside the Trojan horse of emergency. So this is terrifying. And if you can think of any other globalist organization that can present us with an emergency treaty and therefore take powers in many countries at once and supersede local laws, let me know. This is an exercise that we should have done a long time ago, and I didn't think to until Thomas Massie published this speech. And yikes. Crap. Okay, so let's check in on where this pandemic treaty is currently. There was originally going to be a vote on this treaty to put it into law in May of 2024, but so many countries opposed it that the WHO says they'll have a new proposal hammered out in 2025. You can thank leaders from Japan, Slovakia, Australia for tanking these talks. It was not the United States that pushed back against this treaty. Joe Biden was ready to sign on the dotted line, and there's nothing to make us think that Kamala Harris would not also do this. But would the law that passed the House now pass the democratically controlled Senate? Who knows? But if the vote this week is a template, then probably the House would not. Democrats are not that concerned with civil liberties other than the right to have an abortion. Only 4 Democrats voted in the House for this. Here's the roll call of the House vote that happened this week. So you see Republicans voted in unity. not to have any pandemic treaty without congressional approval. The Democrats, only 4 of them cited. So they don't give a crap at all. Here are the 4 Democrats. At least you can have their names, who were brave enough to say, yeah, we don't like this. We think that Congress should be involved in agreeing to the WHO. But look, silver lining is that all of our yelling and screaming has got somewhere. People are paying attention. There are now major roadblocks to the WHO grabbing this power in all, I think, 194 member states. So we have to keep being squeaky wheels. You do the same. If you read this bill, you read the pandemic treaty, and it scares you, tell your senator that you want them to vote for this law. If you read it and you're fine with it, do nothing, I guess, but then don't complain when you have to live under imperial credits when the empire is in control and not your locally elected government. And instead you live under the Sith Empire. More fictional warnings coming up in our last segment today. We're going to talk about how fiction has warned us about globalist control and war. That's coming up.
Real Age Mom, I think I'm saying that right. Real Age Mom says we need to stand together and demand that the government stand down. No more support for Ukraine or any other nations. No war. Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? Like if we put America first?
Well, that would be nice.
But you spend 15 minutes during the debate talking about Israel. Mm-hmm. Like that's an American presidential debate. We need to take out of a 90-minute debate. That's a chunk we need to take out for other countries. And then we need, of course, send billions of dollars to Ukraine. And all hell is about to break loose in the Middle East, and we need to take care of our own. Thank you guys so much for weighing in our chat today. Good to see all of our friends over on YouTube, on Rumble, on X as well. Thank you guys for subscribing. By the way, when you subscribe, I know, by the way, so David was telling me today, when you subscribe to the channel now, or when you mention subscribe, it'll now like highlight the subscribe button on YouTube. YouTube's added that new little feature.
That's nice.
Oh, nice. Well, then maybe YouTube can stop unsubscribing people from our channel without their consent, which is what YouTube also does. They love to unsubscribe people.
They're working on that one. They're working on that button.
Right. Thanks. Great.
Subscribe and stay subscribed.
It's like, subscribe. I want the notifications. Yes, I actually mean it. That's what they need.
I want to be notified when we go live. Yes, please. So thank you all for that. We're going to talk about Haitians in America. And of course, are there dogs and cats and Haitians and Ohio and all of the craziness that's been happening to the citizens there in Springfield, Ohio. But what's the root cause of it? I think we're missing the bigger story. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But first,
we should tell you about our friends over at Home Title Lock, because if you are a homeowner, you need to protect your home, but when's the last time you checked in on title? If you've never done this, then listen, because a new report on homeowners shows that there are now $16 trillion in equity, an all-time high, and that's why you need to protect from a scam that the FBI calls house stealing, where the equity in all of your home is the target. So if no one's watching the title of your home, then scammers can transfer title to their name and take out loans, and then your equity is gone. This is a really clever but terrifying ploy that you need to make sure that you protect against. So if you protect the equity in your home right now, you can get a triple lock protection from our friends over at Home Title Lock. You just go to hometitlelock.com/redacted. The first step is that they'll check in on your home's title to make sure all is on the up and up. Your name is still there and you have title in the way that you want. You can sign up with your address at hometitlelock.com and use our promo code redacted, hometitlelock.com/redacted, and they'll keep an eye out to make sure that you are not a victim of this terrifying scam. Your first 30 days is free of triple lock home title protection. So use the code redacted. Head on over to make sure that your home is protected at hometitlelock.com/redacted.
So what's really happening with the Haitian immigrants in the United States? No one is stopping to ask the question, why is 1/3 of Springfield, Ohio now Haitian? No one's stopping to ask, why is a huge chunk of Aurora, Colorado now Venezuelan? Why under the Biden administration in this last year alone did over 300,000 Haitians come into the United States? That according to the data that we uncovered this morning. Well, I've never been to Haiti. Have you? Our next guest has, and he's one of the only American journalists to produce multiple documentaries on Haiti. And he says all this talk about Haitians eating cats, dogs, in Ohio is totally missing the point. And I think I agree with Dan Cohen from Uncaptured Media, who joins us now. Dan, I think we're missing the point. You might have some nut job who is caught on police camera. I'm sure everyone's seen the video of this woman, allegedly from Ohio. Now we know she's from Canton, Ohio originally, and she's there mentally unstable with a cat. Everyone's seen that. And so, of course, that's the headline. And then President Trump brings that up the other night during the debate. But it's missing, I think, the larger point completely, which is the destabilization of these countries at the hands of the United States and the Biden administration going in and destroying these countries. And then all of these immigrants flooding into the United States. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. I mean, first of all, the stories that have been widely promoted all over X in particular by Elon Musk and his influencers, who is now, of course, very close to President Trump. These stories are totally phony and discredited. The one that they claim is a Haitian woman eating a cat is actually in Springfield, Ohio, is actually from another city, and it happened in August last month, and it's not of a Haitian woman at all. It's an American woman who, presumably, to kill a cat and eat it, you've got to be, I don't know, probably on some kind of heavy drugs, have some serious mental issues. Maybe that would be an issue for, President Trump to focus on, but he made it about supposedly what's going on in with Haitians eating cats. There's another video of a guy carrying a goose, and that's also not of a Haitian. That's just some photo that appeared on Reddit. So the stories, as far as I can see, are totally phony. I mean, one of the reasons I think people don't believe it is look at who's debunking these stories in the first place. We have like NBC, major liberal media outlets, the same media outlets that for years said Trump was elected by Russia. He was put in by Russia. And they said the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation. So those outlets have a history of deception and lying. And so, they've lost all their credibility. The New York Post, ironically, did a pretty good piece, which broke the Hunter Biden laptop story, right? They did a pretty good piece debunking this. So I suggest people check that out. But I think, there is a bigger issue. And that is, well, why is there so much migration into the United States from Haiti, from a variety of countries? Haiti in particular is now in the spotlight. And that's a real question that I think does need to be addressed. And J.D. Vance, the vice presidential candidate, when he was asked about these stories saying these aren't even true, so what's going on? Even the Springfield police have said they don't have any reports. He, kind of changed the subject and said, well, this is about, migration. Why are there so many Haitians in Springfield, Ohio? And it's not
That's
only
a great
Springfield.
Question.
It's a real question. So why are there so many Haitians in Springfield, Ohio? I don't know how many Haitians there actually are. Haitian, I want to be clear, not Haitian Americans, American citizens, but Haitian illegal immigrants, people who came here illegally. How many are there in Ohio, in Springfield, Ohio? I don't know, but there are many in Florida, in New York, in different parts of the country. And the reason is, and J.D. Vance, nor Donald Trump, nor Elon Musk, nor any of these influencers who are claiming to be so worried about the United States and these, Haitian migrants destabilizing our country or eating cats or anything else, none of them want to talk about the real reason Haitians are coming here in boats and dying on the way. And the fact is that for decades and decades, I mean, really, you can trace this back even to the Haitian Revolution, but of 1804. But in particular, the last really, few decades we can just focus on, the U.S. has repeatedly and consistently destabilized Haiti, among other countries in Latin America in particular, leading to massive amounts of immigration, of illegal immigration. In Haiti, in the case of Haiti in particular, the United States overthrew or assisted or engineered the overthrow, not once, but twice, of the popular elected president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. What happened after that is basically Haiti was, in particular after the 2004 coup that the Bush administration oversaw, is the country was dismembered And then you had the earthquake in 2010, which the Clinton Foundation came in and basically made the country's it just took apart. It ruined the state. There's no state services. So these videos that you see going viral on Twitter of garbage everywhere, piles of garbage and disgusting water and sewage everywhere, that's not the fault of people living in that. That is the fault of the regime that is put in place by the U.S. after these coups d'etats. And meddling and interference in elections. Back in 2010, 2011, Hillary Clinton, when she was Obama's Secretary of State, put in the Zelensky before Zelensky of Haiti, a totally corrupt puppet who was just a singer. He was an entertainer, and installed him as the president. And he basically did his best to gut the country, to pillage wealth, to take money from the Petro-Caribe Fund. This is I should say his name is Michel Martelly. He was a singer, goes by the name Sweet Mickey, and he's the brother-in-law of a huge alleged drug dealer, for example. So this is just an example of the kind of chicanery that the United States has been doing in Haiti, meddling. And then you have the 2021 assassination of the president, Jovenel Moise, which is still unsolved. It's like there's no real impetus, and it has U.S. fingerprints all over it. It's basically an open secret that the U.S. knows who did it, and there's no interest. There's no interest in solving that assassination, which is very curious. So, I mean, I could go on, but I also want to point out that this isn't just the Democrats who did this. This isn't just the Clintons and the Biden administration. Now the policy is something called the Global Fragility Act, which was passed under Donald Trump when he was president in 2019. And it's basically, maybe better said as the Crumbling Empire Act. The whole idea is to reinforce U.S. control of these colonies that it's losing its grip on. And Haiti is the test case. And that's what is happening right now, is the Biden administration, following the Trump administration's passage of this act, has engineered an invasion of Haiti, where it's basically paid Kenyan troops, specifically Kenyan, because they are black. It's like, I feel like if conservatives were actually real with their criticism, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, this is the DEI invasion of Haiti. That's what imperialism is doing. What Biden is doing is they went to Kenya specifically because they are black and paid them a whole bunch of money in order to send these mercenaries, what are really have been in Kenya. They've operated as death squads in order to fight so-called gangs, which is, in Haiti. That's another question, if they're gangs, which we've addressed a lot on this show with our documentaries and I've addressed a lot elsewhere. And they're not really gangs per se. They're people with guns, for better or worse. So now this invasion of Haiti that the Biden administration has engineered it's not enough to do what they want. So they're trying to get the United Nations to approve another occupation. Haiti was under UN occupation for, I think, 17 years, from 2004 to 2021. I want to say, or maybe 2019 was when it ended. And then now, a few years later, the Biden administration wants a new UN occupation of blue helmets, which committed all kinds of horrible crimes. So this is the constant meddling, the constant interference, whether economic, political, military. And that's why Haitians are fleeing, because they're not allowed to have a normal country. So not only are people online, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, et cetera, inciting against Haitian Americans, but also the people that are coming to this country because their country's destabilized. They don't have any power. So what we need to do is talk about the corrupt politicians we have in the U.S. who won't stop messing with other countries and destabilizing them. And in terms of what Biden has been doing, Biden actually, under the Biden administration, they actually encouraged Haitians to come through temporary protected status, to get like a temporary visa to come here. And the same with Venezuelans and Nicaraguans, whereas migrants from other countries did not have it so easy. So when Venezuelans, for example, got to the border, they were facilitated through, and sent to different cities. That was, of course, a huge crisis last year, I believe. But and now we have gangs in Aurora, a Venezuelan gang in Aurora, Colorado. So it's like we create, so there's a geopolitical agenda behind which countries the U.S. government encourages migration from and which countries it doesn't. If they want to destabilize your country and make it look really bad so they can say Nicolas Maduro is a terrible dictator, they'll put sanctions on the country, try to overthrow the president, and encourage Venezuelans to come here. But hey, who are you going to get? Sure, lots of people are hardworking people who just want to survive and can't live when their economy is sanctioned and suffocated to death. But definitely, you're also going to get some questionable, shady characters. So when you create chaos, you are inevitably on the outside. When you create chaos in foreign countries, you are inevitably going to import that chaos into the country. And that's exactly what's going to happen, what's happening now. And the political class is basically, instead of taking responsibility and saying, we're going to change policy in the foreign arena and domestic, they're just blaming it on everyday people. And so Haitian Americans who are hardworking, who are, citizens who pay their taxes and are part of this country just as much as you or me or anyone else are, they're being demonized. And, along with Haitian migrants who may not have any other choice and are just trying to find a better life. And, none of it actually solves the problems. It's just a sideshow to get Trump, some political points.
Right. We had the Springfield council meeting the other night, and you heard from Springfield residents saying, my mother-in-law was killed by an immigrant from Haiti, and this is happening, of course, all across the country. You saw what's happening in Aurora, and yes, you're going to get some awful people as a result of this. Do you think you're going to get all doctoral students that are coming to the United States? No, these are people on the margins. And so when you destabilize and destroy their country, in the case of the United States with sanctions in Venezuela, you're going to get hardened individuals who are going to try to, take advantage of the system and get away from there. And the same with Haiti. And so that's the real story. And so I think the media has been totally distracted. Of course, social media is focused on the cats and the dogs and all of that piece of it, eating pets or whatever. But they're missing the larger story, which is the total geopolitical move to have the United States destabilize these countries. And people at home might be saying, well, why would the U.S. want to destabilize Haiti? What's the purpose of destabilizing Haiti? Can you answer that question? Does it all come back to money and control and minerals?
There's a number of reasons with Haiti. I mean, one thing you can look at is the sweatshop labor industry that's existed there for decades. There's an incredible film my colleague Kim Ives did called Bitter Cane that shows in the 70s these sweatshops, where it's people working in factories for next to nothing, sewing up baseballs and making electronics. That has existed for decades. It's the cheapest labor source in, basically in the Americas. And then with the bifurcation of the global economy, this whole Cold War against China, countries are pulling, or companies rather, corporations are pulling their factories out of China and Southeast Asia. They want to put them back in Haiti. And that's really what a big part of the Clinton machine was doing post 2010, is opening an industrial park that promised to bring good jobs to Haitians, but actually was just making sure that they were making, no more than a couple dollars a day. In fact, the Clinton State Department interfered in Haitian affairs to make sure that to make sure their wages were especially low. So you have the demand for cheap labor, and then certainly there are resources in Haiti. I think some of it has been overstated to a degree. There have been a lot of claims that I've seen about large iridium deposits, for example, in Haiti. As far as I know, that is not true. So I don't know how much the mineral aspect plays into it, but definitely the labor pool. And then, the other thing I think is the U.S. I mean, the world is a big chessboard, as Zbigniew Brzezinski called it, the grand chessboard. So if Haiti, for example, falls out of the U.S. orbit, is basically not controlled by the U.S. anymore, well, then it would look to presumably other countries. It would rekindle relations with Venezuela, maybe with Russia, maybe with China, maybe with Turkey, other countries that the U.S. doesn't want it to. And in fact, Jovenel Moïse, the president who was assassinated in 2021, shortly before he was assassinated, he was starting to look to other countries. He was installed as basically a puppet of the U.S. By that same guy, Michel Martelly, who the Clintons had installed. But then he started to get his own ideas when he wanted to do his own projects, and the local oligarchs who were tied to the U.S. weren't funding him, weren't backing him anymore. So he started to look to the multipolar world, and the U.S. does not want that for Haiti or for an example. So it's basically, that's what this whole Global Fragility Act is about reasserting U.S. control of these countries that are, so-called fragile, that it's losing its grip on. So that's, I think, the real reason for the U.S. continues to meddle in Haiti.
Well, no one knows it better than you do. Dan Cohen from Uncaptured Media, thank you so much for this and putting this all in context. So when you guys see the cat videos floating all around social media, put it in perspective. Why are these individuals in the United States in the first place? And it's very clear to see what the motivations are. Dan, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Clayton. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. I see a lot of people here in the chat as I'm watching this. I mean, people are like, Dan's clueless. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, he's clueless. Have you been to Haiti? That's interesting.
No American journalist has spent more time in Haiti than Dan, by the way. But when you say that, when you say Dan is clueless, just be specific. What is he clueless about? Let's have a conversation. This show is not like we don't want to be like other shows.
Yeah.
Most other shows suck, okay? We don't want this sort of one-way street where you don't get to talk, and we want to hear from you. So when I see other people in the chat say Dan is spot on, then someone says Dan is clueless. Don't just say that. Say, what specifically is he clueless about? Maybe you have a lot more experience in Haiti than he does. Maybe you are a journalist and you've done a lot more documentaries than Dan has, and you know a lot more about it. Then you've interviewed all of these individuals and owners of the prisons and the hospitals in Haiti. Maybe you have a lot more experience than Dan. So if he's clueless about something, then just say that.
And look, if you live in one of these communities and you have immigrants there and you see things that you might find disturbing, what do you want for those people? You don't want them to poof, or you don't want harm for them. You want them to live safely in their home culture.
Yeah.
That is what we are always advocating for, is don't disrupt other countries and create migrant crises.
So, I mean, I hope you understand what the only thing Dan said about Springfield was the video that's been now debunked. She's from Canton, Ohio. She's not from Springfield. So that's the only thing he talked about actually from Springfield. And I brought up the city council meetings last night where you heard from multiple residents saying that they had, their mother-in-law killed by an illegal Haitian immigrant. You had other individuals jamming cars into businesses, that their city is being overrun. I said that. I'm saying that right now. So, an American Cowboy here in our Rumble chat says, Clayton, I'm from Central Ohio. It's not only Springfield being overrun. Different towns are receiving different immigrants. It's been happening since COVID. Reynoldsburg has a huge influx of Nepalese immigrants. It's all being orchestrated right before your eyes. And it comes from, so why, you have to ask yourself, why is the Biden administration just waving Venezuelans across the border, allowing them, we know that from factual documentation of individuals, they're just waving them across the border, allowing them to come in from certain countries, these countries where we've gone in and specifically destabilized them. Like in the case of Haiti, we have destroyed that country. And then it's a shock that 300,000 Haitians are now in America, and 20,000 of them showed up in Springfield, Ohio, completely destabilizing that population. Just a few minutes ago, a bomb threat all through Springfield, Ohio. According to the city of Springfield, multiple city, county school buildings in Springfield, Ohio, just this afternoon were closed today following a bomb threat received early this morning. That one elementary school, Daily News is reporting that Springfield Mayor Rob Sue said that the threat mentioned frustration with the city related to Haitian immigrant issues. It's a disaster. But, don't get all I'm saying is don't get distracted by cat videos, okay? Yes, there might be some crazy people out there, some crazy Haitians eating cats, and there might be some of them, killing dogs, and that's awful and terrible. But don't forget the root of it. Don't be distracted, and don't get sucked into what the mainstream media wants you to do. Is they want you to look like idiots. They want you to look like idiots by sharing cat videos, and then you get painted by these liberals as crazy cat people. So just stay focused on the issue, which is our border is wide open and the criminality in the United States has skyrocketed, and we are destabilizing these countries and destroying them and welcoming these people in with open arms as a great replacement unfolds in the United States. So don't be distracted by cat videos. That's all we're saying.
I'm not. Don't worry about it.
There was some funny memes today going around with Trump's voice with a lot of, TikTok videos. I mean, they're funny to watch, but don't get distracted by it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
All right. And if Dan got something specifically wrong, more about Haiti on a particular subject, or that the guy with the goose is actually from Haiti, and he turns out, it's not just a Reddit video or photo that's been making the rounds, then please share it. Share it with America. We'd love to hear it. But
yeah. And detach from the outcome. Who cares, right? We care about the root cause of these things.
Yeah,
so whether it's true or whether it's not, you have to detach from this and be willing to say, okay, I was wrong about that. But the real cause here is illegal immigration and how it's destabilizing countries and our country as well. So that's what we care about. All right. We're going to talk about how the debates showed us that we are in the dystopic fiction that we've been warned about. Have we missed the signs? Well, we haven't. You haven't, and we haven't. And we're going to talk about that and the warning signs that actually put me in a deep depression after this debate. And we're going to talk about that. But first, Clayton.
But first, I'm clicking around like crazy. Yeah, I know we all talk about, I don't know if you guys saw it today, gold just hit an all-time high. Why? European Central Bank slashing rates. Guess what is coming, guys? The United States government, the Fed, not even part of the government, right? An extracurricular, non-governmental body, the Federal Reserve, is about to slash interest rates in the United States about 6 days from now on September 18th, further devaluing the U.S. dollar. That's why today, earlier this morning, gold hit a brand new all-time high. Silver prices also surged today. Silver, relatively speaking, is still much lower than its all-time high. I think its all-time high was around $45 for an ounce of silver. I think it hit, around 20 something today, which was really high, really nice, but still not its all-time high. Gold, though, hit its all-time high. Why? Because, again, concerns over the currency. The ECB slashing rates, the United States government about to do the same in 6 days. We're big proponents of investing in precious metals here on the show, and our friends over at Lear Capital can help you get set up doing just that. Whether you want to have those precious metals stored off-site in an off-site facility or at your home, they'll ship them right to your home. You can store them in your gun safe if you'd like to. They will take care of all of it for you. Just jump on the phone with them, and tell them you heard about them from us and talk to them. They have a bunch of free reports that you can get. Specifically ask them, though, you're looking at gold bullion. Like, we're big fans of investing, in gold bullion specifically, and silver. We just did a big purchase of silver and gold, and we did about 60% silver and about 40% gold. For our last investment, because prices for silver are so great right now. They'll help you. Just jump on the phone with them, talk to them, ask them some questions. They are the experts. We are not. Give them a call, 1-800-613-3557. That is their 800 number, 1-800-613-3557, or go to LearRedacted.com, and you can receive up to $15,000 in free bonus metals with a qualified purchase. Ask them about that as well.
All right. Can you stop messing around with the chat over there? I want to see what they have to say. I
pressed the wrong button and this thing popped up on Rumble. I don't know. I can't get rid of the damn thing. Like, a pop-up window came up and I can't get rid of the thing. It's called harpy.ai. So I was trying to click on something to see the Rumble chat, and then this stupid thing popped up and I can't get rid of it.
All right. Because we're going to have a talk. You and me, dear audience, and I love your participation.
I will close out. I'll make sure it's good for you. Okay, so you guys interact right now. We all want to hear from you guys in the chat room today.
Clayton and I always have arguments about the chat, because you see how he maintains control of the mouse like a remote control. We are a married couple, and so this is basically like fighting over the remote control. I don't like what you're doing there.
I'm moving the windows around. No, I don't want to do it your way.
Can I just have it?
No, you cannot have the mouse.
Give it to me.
It's on my side of the table. Keep your hands off the mouse.
In my car, we also have like this temperature sync, and I'm always pushing sync so he can't change it on his side. So I don't like this.
That's why they have those beds that have like different temperature controls.
And you paused the YouTube one. Okay.
All right, I'll click it down. All right, there, it's rolling now. The YouTube chat is rolling as well.
Okay.
Old Hickory says it's lecture time. Yes.
Don't fight in front of our audience. It makes lecture them uncomfortable.
Time, exactly.
All right. Well, the presidential debate shows that we are living in a war-loving, dystopic, authoritarian system. And a lot of good fiction has warned us about this, and we are missing it. Now, before we started this segment, I talked about how fiction has warned us, and a lot of people will sort of cheer for these movies like The Hunger Games, Star Wars, Harry Potter, 1984, and you'll say, oh yeah, we'd recognize authoritarianism and fight back when we see it, but we're missing it, and the debates showed it to us clearly. Now, I put it to the chat at the beginning of the show. What are some other fictional pieces, either movies or books, that have warned us about this that you recognize today? Philip said V for Vendetta. Some of you said Soylent Green, Terminator, Running Man. I've never seen that. Gattaca, Blade Runner. Honestly, I saw it so clearly in this debate this week that I had to take Wednesday off because I was so upset, because it says to me that we are living in a black hole of terror and war that will affect our children. Sometimes I can brush off these stories and go to my regular life. This week I couldn't. The debate really got to me. It could be that this was totally engineered to give Democrats power. It feels like that. My concern is more about the war rhetoric than the actual bias, although that's a concern too. Just hours ago, an ABC whistleblower said they will allegedly release an affidavit claiming that the Harris campaign was given sample questions, as well as assurances that Trump would be fact-checked and that she would not. Now, I'm not that upset about one candidate over another because, again, what I'm concerned about is the war rhetoric that is being pushed around one party and not another. It felt to me like we literally are living in the Hunger Games, and the media is controlled by those who will send your children to their deaths. And as a mother, I want to make this case to you so that we don't miss it. Now, if you haven't read The Hunger Games, please read it. Every day as a journalist, we see terrifying parallels between this fictional novel and the authoritarianism at play in our world that does not have any value for life or death. In The Hunger Games, Suzanne Collins paints this world where citizens work for the government. They own nothing. They have no rights. There are constant shortages of food, clothing, shelter. There's constant suffering, except in the Capitol. Who is the Capitol in this? The media, the globalists. In the Capitol, they live with abundance. They are aligned with the globalist agenda, and they risk no death. Their children are not sent to their deaths. Their children do not work. They are never at a threat. The capitalist, or the Capitol rather, makes sure that citizens never rise up against them by hosting the Hunger Games every year, where children are picked to play in a lottery to have to fight for their death. Now, the main news anchor in the Hunger Games is Caesar Flickerman, and tell me you did not see this parallel. He is a mouthpiece of government control. He will never go into the Hunger Games, and he will never have a child die or a family member, so he can broadcast in this way. This is what I saw so clearly when these two anchors that hosted the debate, specifically when they asked President Trump, do you want Ukraine to win the war? That is a fundamentally ignorant question about the state of the war, and only someone who risks neither their own life nor the life of someone that they love could ask it. And honestly, I'm choked up even thinking about it, because it shows how much they want war to be a zero-sum game. And they don't care about death. They risk nothing. It's a horrifically biased question. Now, President Trump's answer was that he just wants the death to stop, and the media perceives that as a failure because either they have not studied the conflict or they want the war to continue, or both. Watch.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris.
Yes, I mean, to me, that was like the applause line of the night. Absolutely. And then that smug asshole asking, I just want to be clear. You already answered it.
He is Caesar Flickerman. He doesn't care about anybody's deaths.
I just want to be clear. I know you already answered it when you told me you want the war to end, but I want to go back and ask it again. Does that mean you don't want Ukraine to win? Let me say it again. I want the war to be over. I don't want these human beings being killed.
If he did not live in the capital, where he risks no death, he risks nothing, he would not ask a question like that. If your relatives were dying or your children could die for this, would you ask a question like that? Like war is a zero-sum game? That it's win or lose? Of course you wouldn't. If you care about humans, someone else put another dystopic warning in here, Planet of the Apes, good one. Well, look at how the legacy media spun this, that Trump refuses to say if he wants Ukraine to win or lose. Again, if your relatives are dying, or if your children might be at risk to be sent to this war, do you care about win or lose? No. You care only about peace. Now, Kamala Harris's answer was that Trump would end the war just by giving it up. Well, what is it to give up? Is it ours to give up? Well, let's take a look. Here's what she says the U.S. should not give up. That's not our land. That's Ukraine right there. The territory that is red and dark gray are the regions that have been attacked by Ukraine since 2014, because those regions were aligned with Russia, or they were ethnic Russians.
Yeah, 99% of them.
They did not support the Maidan coup, and the Ukrainian army started attacking those regions in 2014, so much so that in 2015, the International Monetary Fund told them that they would stop lending them money unless they stopped spending $1 million per day attacking their own people. But Ukraine never stopped. In 2022, those regions were continuously attacked, and those attacks escalated. They asked Russia to come in and support them and stop the attacks. Russian parliament voted to do that. It was not the whim of Putin. And now, once the Russian army had control of those places, those people voted to join Russia. So when Kamala Harris says we can't give that up, it's not ours. It's not up to us. We absolutely have nothing to give up when you don't make decisions for the people in those regions. Now, Trump was right when he said that Kamala Harris had her chance to prevent the war, and she did not. She failed. She went to Ukraine in early 2022 to negotiate. What could she have done? Well, she could have told Ukraine, stop attacking those regions and Russia won't have to come in and do anything. She could have stopped giving them money and weapons to keep attacking their own people in order to honor the Minsk agreements. Instead, she did the opposite. Here she is explaining what she did that led to more war in February of 2022.
Now, during your meeting with President Zelensky, he spoke a little bit about asking the U.S. for specific defense aid. Could you talk a little bit about what he asked the United States for and what the U.S. has agreed to offer?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you what I think you already know. So far, we have offered, and not even offered, we have transferred and given $650 million in aid. We have also made certain loan guarantees, around in particular $1 billion. And that is on top of all of the work that we have done collectively through the NATO alliance to provide support for Ukraine.
She created the war. The war was escalating because Ukraine was attacking those places, and she gave them more weapons and money to keep doing that. And Russia then came in and stopped it. So no, she's not going to want this war to end. She never did. She never even tried to prevent it. Now, Trump is not actually saying the whole story about Ukraine. He frames this conflict still as Putin's invasion. But again, does it matter if he's willing to facilitate peace in this moment? In the short term, no. In the long term, I would like him to say the truth that Ukraine has been playing dirty and attacking civilians and never honored the Minsk agreements, never had the intention to. But again, his main message that he wants death to stop, and the Hunger Games anchors could not accept that. That's what you can see. I'm really upset about it.
Oh, you want death to stop? That's not in our cards. I don't see that. We're not talking about death stopping here. Let's move along to the next question.
Absolutely not. They didn't hear it.
Climate change.
They didn't say boo about how she has no plan for peace in Ukraine. She has no plan for peace in Gaza. They didn't push her on that because obviously a vote for her is a vote for war if you have studied this. Now, this is how journalist Seymour Hersh put it in his newsletter today, and I give him a high five for this, that the one vital area that scared the hell out of me, foreign policy. Harris did not deviate from Biden's horrific and dangerous foreign policy in two areas: continued personal and military support for the ongoing Israeli terror in Gaza, and his administration's continuing support in dollars and war goods for Ukraine and its delusional president, Zelensky. So Kamala Harris doesn't have to say that because she lives in the Capitol and she doesn't have children that would be drafted into the Hunger Games of this war. She has a stepchild, but they would not be drafted, obviously, because they live in the Capitol. Neither does David Muir. He's not a parent. The other anchor, Lindsay Davis, she is a mother, so you would think that maybe she would stop and think, but maybe she has privileges of the Pan Am Capitol because she's in the Hunger Games. But the rest of us who do not live in the Capitol, who do not speak for that, whose children may be sent into this dystopic Hunger Games, have to see this. So again, I put it to you, have these ABC moderators either not studied the war in Ukraine, or are they broadcasting for the violence of the globalist wars? Just think about that and let me know how you think. Now, again, the backlash has been all around their bias, but what about the backlash about their warmongering? That's what I want to know. They deserve to be fired for not doing the job of journalism and continuing to sell us a war based on a lie, and they will not sacrifice a damn thing, personally. Now, in the Hunger Games, I just want to finish with this. There is a time when the tables turn and the globalists actually do come down on hard times, and then the people in the Capitol have nothing, and then they have to get a taste of their own medicine. It's hard to not think of that as a revenge fantasy when I think about these globalists. I don't want anything bad to happen to them, but I definitely have this sort of poetic justice idea for anyone who continues to support war like this. So shame on them.
I do wish bad things for them. I do wish they would go to prison. They'd be locked up. They're war criminals. They are vile. They're evil human beings, and they should not be a part of our society. They should not be a part of our ruling class telling us how to live our lives.
Well, the journalists, I want to, throw them in the gulag. Let them, work in District 12 in the coal mines. That's how I feel.
They're part of the state-run media.
Go to the cobalt mines that might collapse on you at any given time for your electric vehicle. That's what I want.
Someone in the chat says all of the mainstream media is pro-war, including Fox News. Yeah, I mean, that's why my friend Tucker Carlson lost his job, right? I mean, you cannot be on any of the mainstream media, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN. They might have different flavors, they might have their different flavors, but it's all one machine.
Oh, the warmongering that went on Fox News around September 11th memorials about how we need to up our military industrial complex because we haven't dealt with a threat that continues since 9/11 was horrifying. Yes, they too are part of the Capitol.
We here on this show spend an entire week, and we will continue today to honor the victims of 9/11 and showing you the truth around 9/11. We've done a whole week-long special. Every day we've launched a new premiere here on the show specifically focused on 9/11, how the hijackings were not hijackings at all. They were remotely controlled vehicles. These pilots did not have any kind of experience to do these amazing advanced maneuvers, descending 10,000 feet in 1 minute and pulling off unbelievable maneuvers that not even advanced pilots from Top Gun could pull off. Don't be a fool. You're not an idiot. What types of vehicles actually hit the Pentagon? What happened to the vehicles in the vehicle in Shanksville, Pennsylvania? All of that we've covered here this week on the show. And all of the evidence, even former Fox News employees or Fox anchors who were there on camera saying we heard demolitions, we saw explosions. That stuff has been hidden. And of course, the military-industrial complex of the mainstream media continues to push this narrative that we need to go to war in the Middle East and Americans will die, $1 trillion in spending, while cities like Springfield, Ohio and Aurora, Colorado descend into chaos because these guys, they have no, I don't know. They're more focused on money and power than they are the United States.
You have no moral code if you can ask a question like that. Do you want Ukraine to win? Clearly, you have no conscience. Either you're really stupid or you really don't care about death. And I lean towards the second one. And I just can't stand it. I literally can't stand it. So I wanted to have a talk with you guys about it.
Especially when you can't even define what winning is. Like, what is winning anyway?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if Trump said, David, I know you're a news anchor, probably not terribly smart, but what does it mean to win in Ukraine?
Yeah.
And then throw it back on David. What do you mean by win? Can you be specific? Get their land back, take over Crimea. They have no answer for
that
this.
Same land they've tortured. I don't care about that. Who cares about that?
Yeah.
They're poor Ukrainian miners. Mostly ethnic Russians.
Well, we want to thank you guys so much for subscribing to the show here. We really appreciate it. If you're on, and Grover's excited about it as well, our little mini pincher. Thank you guys. Someone said, you can connect more than one mouse to the computer to give her a mouse as well. No, this is my mouse.
But that would be war.
Yes,
that would be all out war.
This is my mouse. It stays on my side of the desk here. No, there's no more attachments going to happen here.
Yeah, that would we want to tell you could have two cursors.
He's a megalomaniac.
That's right.
Yeah.
Got to have control. I'm a Capricorn, we're the ones that build businesses and we're in control. We're strong, ambitious people. That's right. You're a Virgo. That drives you nuts because you're a crazy spreadsheet freak. Mm-hmm. That's what Virgos are.
Yeah. But I'm also a good reader.
That's right. Okay, so we are going to launch our premiere. David, you want to tell us about this? So it's our 9/11. Our 9/11 week continues here. We have a big interview coming up in just moments. How does this premiere work? So if people are watching on YouTube?
Yeah, so if you're on YouTube, you're going to immediately after the stream be redirected. I'll also be posting the link repetitively in the chat in case you aren't redirected. If you're on Rumble, the video will be posted immediately. It's going to be posted actually at 3:25 p.m. So you can watch it there, as well as X. It'll be posted at 3:25. But on YouTube, stick around and it should redirect you. But if not, then click the link that I'll be spamming in chat here in about 1 minute.
All right, great. So stay here on YouTube, and if not on Rumble, we'll be posting the video right there so you can watch that interview on 9/11. We're continuing our deep dive on that. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us on this September 12th. We much love to all of you, and watch that premiere. We'll see you real soon. Have a great night, everyone.